Hey there, welcome back to Hardy Brothers Outdoors. Josh Hardy here. It's another beautiful day in southeastern Ohio. Supposed to get up to the high 50s today, which is going to be awesome. I am here at the cabin, and what you just heard is my most dreaded sound every spring. So that is the invasion of the Canadian geese on our 4-acre pond. There's really not a foolproof way to keep them from sticking around. I certainly do try to harass them. They are still protected with an annual season, so they've made their resurgence, and they're frankly a nuisance. So what you just heard there was me walking outside yelling at them and clapping my hands to try to get them to leave. This time of year they like to look around the pond for nesting areas, and we have an island on the pond at the far end, secluded back in the woods, and that seems to be the hot spot for annual nesting. We usually get at least one pair at one end of the island or the other. What I've done in the past is put up what I call the Goose defense, and it is a string fence along the grass edge of the pond, which is, I want to say it's about 500 yards or so. I mean, it's a long ways, a lot of work, and it's a pain in the butt once spring hits and you have to start trimming around the pond. So the reason for doing that, and it seems to be pretty effective, is that they need to go in and out of the water frequently to eat. Why do they do that? Well, because they want to put down about 2 pounds of goose droppings per day per goose. So they eat a lot, and they eat constantly, and they need access to grass. So by blocking the grass access, that seems to help make this a little less favorable of a place to breed. However, it's not foolproof. So this year I'm going to take the John boat out, and we are going to put the goose defense around the island to see if we can't discourage the nesting on the island. If they can't nest on the island, then they will nest on the edges, and they will surely be eaten by bobcat, coyote, or fox that we have in the area. So I think hitting that island is going to be a good thing. The other thing that I'm going to do is we have 100 redbud trees that we're going to plant, and I want to put about, I don't know, 15 or 20 on the island. And these are, once they get big enough, they'll seed themselves all over the property. But we're going to put down about 100. If you didn't see my last video, the reason why we're planting 100, and we haven't talked about this, ever before on the channel. Last April, actually April 3rd to be exact, my dad passed away. Our dad, sorry, Jason and my dad passed away from COVID, and he was one of the first 50 in Ohio to pass away. He had a redbud tree in his backyard. He gave me seeds. I have a huge bag of seeds that I'm going to also put out, and he kept that thing manicured down almost like a bonsai, not like a real small bonsai, but in terms of the age of the tree, he kept it, well groomed down, and it was really a cool feature around his pool. I also love the redbud tree, the magenta purple flowers that come in the spring. It's the first tree to bloom around here, and it blooms right around the time that he passed away. So I bought 100 1 to 2 foot bare root trees, and we're going to plant those. There's also good wildlife benefits, so it fits in with our habitat management, and frankly there's none around the pond. Maybe because the beaver that we've had in the past have come up and eaten them. I don't know, but we're going to plant them all around the pond, and it'll probably be about, I'm guessing 6-7 years before we get flowers on them. So that's going to take a while to materialize, but we plan on retiring here in 10 years, so it'll just make it even more beautiful and special 10 years from now. So, and as I was telling my son Dylan, this will be something he'll be able to tell his children and their children, that those trees were planted in honor of our dad, so, and his grandfather and their great grandfather, and so on. So Kelly and Dylan are going to help me get those planted today. Just using some old maple boards that I milled First time we ran the mill. Cutting up pretty good. I have to admit, out of all the power tools, this is my least comfortable one operating. I've used it in the past, but not very often, and I have had stuff kick back, so I always use the kickback on it. But by all means, this is not a demonstration on how to use a table saw. It's just me trying to get the job done and as safely as I can. Now I need to cut these, get a point on all these with the miter saw. Well, there's not necessarily a perfect size for these stakes. I think this is about right, 2 feet. I'll put a 45 on the bottom to make it go in the ground easier. It's a 1x1, so it's pretty firm. I usually like to run a rope, a string about 12 inches up or so. And depending on how soft the ground is and how uneven the bank is, some of these go in the water, so I leave some longer, some shorter, and I'll use some of the trees that are there as well. But again, this is a temporary solution, so we're just going to do with it what we have, best we have. That's it. So some of you may be wondering how we can call ourselves conservationists or habitat managers and not allow the geese to stick around. Here's the thing. We have duck houses. We want the ducks, the geese, just too much waste. Like I said, about 2 pounds of poop a day out on the banks. We like to swim in this pond. There are large state parks here that get closed down due to E. coli outbreaks. The more stuff in the water, the more algae. So geese, they're not welcome, and they are a nuisance. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources publishes information that you can use. You can't destroy the eggs, you can't disturb the nest, but there are multiple ways to go about preventing the hatchings. I find this to be a lot less intrusive. I don't want to cross any lines. And again, we want the ducks, we don't want the geese. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. All right, we made it to Beaver Island, which is what my kids have named it since we've had a couple beavers here on the property. And they've done a pretty good job of tearing up all of the trees around here. So we're going to plant some more redbuds here, but we're also going to put up the goose, what I call the goose defense. As I talked about earlier, we'll stake the bank, use this white twine to create a barrier that keeps them from passing through. And it's gonna be a job to get it all done. But I'm gonna go ahead and unload the boat real quick, and then I'll give you a quick tour of the island here. Dibble bar for the trees. 100 redbuds. We'll probably put, what do you think, Kel? 15 or so out here.
Sounds good.
They're going to possibly not make it. They might get hit with beaver down the road, so we might even go 20. We'll see, because it will be beautiful if we have them out here. And my helper, Dylan, is not very helpful here.
I just got a bite, though.
He's fishing, and Kel's operating the camera. She prefers to be on that side of the camera, so maybe in the future we can get her to warm up to the camera. So let's get staking. We'll do a quick tour, and then we're going to stake, and we'll speed this part up and show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so here's a quick tour of the island. We have 3 wood duck nest boxes nearby. We'll go down through here. The beaver have really torn this place up. We've trapped a couple of them over on that bank right there. There's a lodge over there. But I'll just give you the quick tour. Not a very big island, but kind of cool nonetheless. A lot of little white pines growing up here on the island. So the house is down at the far end on the right, but we can't see the island from there, and you can't see the house from there. There's our swim dock. So pretty cool little thing. It's kind of shallow off on the right hand side here. Someday I'd like to create a little bridge, maybe with some of the sawmill wood. That's it. So Kelly's going to start planting some of the trees, and I am going to start driving some stakes so we can get the fence up. Gonna be just about right on the stake, I hope. Really? We'll add one back in there. Okay, I'm about halfway done. It has taken quite a bit of time, and let's take a quick look at what we got going on here, progress-wise. So you can see the string, white mason string, down through there. And one of the things I've found over the years is that after a couple rains, the string will have some give and it'll dip. So I wrap stuff around the each of the posts. I don't tie it every time. I do that every now and again, and I will be able to come back and pull the slack and wrap it again. So I'm about halfway around this thing. I don't know what it's taken so far, but ideally I like to go right to the edge because they don't fly from the water onto land very easily. And they don't really do a lot of flying other than taking off from middle of the water. So just come along through here. I try to use anything natural that I can along the way. And you can see these trees, lots of beaver activity here. That's my biggest concern about planting these redbuds out here, but it's true for all the way around the bank. The beaver have just wreaked havoc. And trapping season is in December, and they've usually done a ton of damage by then. So alright, well, I made it around to the point. Kelly's up there still planting with the dibble bar. Dylan's swinging a hammer, waiting to hurt himself. Let me get back to it. Alright, so the goose defense is up. We got about 20 trees in the ground thanks to Kelly. We marked them, which turned out to be a great idea, with some orange paint, just a little line on them all, so that when we were walking around we didn't stomp on them again. So I want to do that closer to the house too, where I might be using weed killer or clearing brush or something like that, so it's something that we can identify them. But I think it's time for us to be voted off the island, so we'll give you a quick view around to see if you can see the line around the line of defense, I'll call it, from the geese. So let's hop in the boat and we'll wrap this up. So you can see the stake and the line flowing through there. There's a little beaver lodge right there, and we found a couple spots, that one right there and over here, that little indention. So that's it. That is what I would call the goose defense, and we're going to see if it works on the island this year versus doing it on the mainland, and hopefully that'll do the trick. Kelly and I are going to get back and do more of the redbud planting along the fence line. I think it'll go a lot faster with two of us, one with the dibble bar, one planting, and it should pick up a lot faster. It took her the same amount of time to plant, I think about 20, as it took me to put up that perimeter fence. which was a long time for both of us. So let's go get some lunch and finish the planting of the redbuds. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe. If you like our content, share it with a friend, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. All right. Okay. This is right between the two driveways, so we can remember where it was. Try to stand that back up straight. Planting redbud trees to remember Papa Jim. Dylan's middle name is Jim, named after both of his grandpas. Dylan James. All right, wedge it in there. Good job, buddy.